Welcome to another exciting episode of American Warrior Radio, coming to you since 2009. If you or someone you know has ever worn the uniform of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force, or National Guard or Reserves, you've come to the right place, American Warrior Radio. We're always efforting to bring you news, notes, interviews, and current events for all things military and veteran related. The bumper music for American Warrior Radio is provided by none other than combat veteran and mill hop artist Stephen Hobbs. Thank you, Stephen. With that said, let's kick the tires and light the fires and get this episode off the ground. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming back to American Warrior Radio. And listen, it's that time again. It's Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country with none other than Dr. Scott Fairchild. Morning, Doc.
Morning. It's great to be here again. I like to share information with our veterans and with our community. Such a pleasure.
For sure. This is an important topic, all right? This is a man who's eminently qualified to speak on this subject. When you go to the VA and file your claim, let's say for post-traumatic stress disorder, they're going to order what's called a C&P exam, a compensation and pension exam. We're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of that. Right from the top, Doc, should they be leery about going into this exam?
Always, always, because you're being evaluated. This is an opportunity for you to state your case. So you want to go in prepared, because if you don't, you can end up with a big goose egg at the end of this and not get the compensation.
You're being evaluated from the moment you get out of your vehicle, whether you walk into a doc-in-the-box psychologist or into the VA. They're watching you, and you always want to say when the doctor greets you, "How are you doing today?" Some days are worse than others. Why is that so important?
That is absolutely correct, because if you respond fine to that, they will write about 3 pages on how fine you are. So it's very important to let them know the truth. Some days are better than others.
Some days are worse than others.
Yeah.
And what that does is it sets the table. So now you got the examiner's attention. Go, oh, wait, that wasn't the pat answer I was expecting, like fine or I'm okay. Because if you were fine or okay, we wouldn't be going through the process.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's so important to prepare even before you walk in. It's so important to realize that, you're not going to dress up, have your Sunday suit on and your briefcase with all your things tabulated, because that shows you in your best condition, if that even ever occurs. So what you want to do is, I tell folks, go in with your daily outfit, go in with the clothes on that you cut the lawn with, because basically they are evaluating your appearance from the parking lot on in. So you don't want to overdress, you don't want to over prepare in terms of having everything so organized that they think you should be working for an administrative office. So it's so important to start off walking in, show them how you feel on a daily basis.
So this is be at your worst. If you are having a great day the morning you go in for your C&P, again, that's compensation and pension exam. This is the paperwork the VA VSR rating specialist is going to look at to evaluate whether you have the disorder and how bad it is. So it's very important. And again, always be at your worst. If you had a great day that day, think back to when you weren't doing so good. And like Doc just said, don't go in there all prim and proper. You need to hit it and hit it hard with where you are.
Exactly. If you have some military clothing that you wear, a military shirt or a military hat, it's perfectly fine to wear that. Also, as you go in, it's important to establish a rapport with the examiner. It's so important to connect with them. And one of the things I recommend to all of my veterans as they go forward for the compensation and pension eval C&P, I recommend that they walk in, they look at the evaluator eye to eye, and they say to them, thank you. Thank you for seeing me today. I've been telling my story to so many people here, there, and at the VA and all over, and it doesn't seem like anyone listens. So I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to somebody who's going to listen to me, hear me, and somebody who cares about what I'm going through.
So the veteran is putting the onus on the examiner to watch and listen closely. But as we always say, oftentimes less is more. You don't want to blather on about whatever question you might be asked.
Exactly. Sometimes veterans will ask me, can I bring my spouse into the evaluation? In the past, when the VA did all the evaluations, spouses were not allowed in. We leave that to your discretion. I've been in situations where spouses took over the evaluation, and that does not go well. So if you do choose to have your spouse come in, I highly recommend that you sit down with your spouse ahead of time, say, politely that, you can talk when talk to, because you don't want her or him to take over the evaluation. Also, I recommend that you sit down with your spouse and do what I call a top 10 list. It can be 5 items, it can be 15 items. I call it the top 10 list because it's a list of items that he or she notes that you have problems with. He tosses and turns at night. He yells at me for the little things. He wakes up in nightmares and dreams. He's slapping me in the middle of the night. A top 10 list of issues that concern your spouse. And that way you have it available. If he or she comes in, they can say it, they can state it. If they choose to stay out or they're asked to stay out, you can also give that list to the examiner and they have it for your record.
And what you all need to understand is these are fairly cursory exams. So they're going to be looking for the information they need to fill out that DBQ. Can you talk about that for a moment?
Absolutely. This whole exam is stimulated by something called a disability benefits questionnaire. And you'll be familiar with that disability benefits questionnaire if you come to one of us and we fill it out for you in advance. So I strongly recommend that the night before you review it, because that's exactly what they're going to walk down that form. So if you already have the answers in your head, you are fully prepared. Now, I'll mention that on page 4 and 5 on most of the PTSD exams, you will find a checklist of your symptoms. That checklist is important, and we will check them off for you as you go down the list. However, you'll notice to the right of each item on that checklist, there's a lot of white space, and it's not just there to hold the air up. It's there for you, and you take your own page 4 and 5, and you write in that white space examples of each of the things. Say, for example, hypervigilance. I'm very aware of things around me. So the examples, you can say, I have an alarm system at my house. I have a concealed weapons permit. I keep a weapon next to the bed. All those things that support your hypervigilance. Say, for example, another issue would be startle response. We had one of the spouses.
What is startle response?
Well, startle response is when you're so stimulated that you almost jolt and jerk. If somebody taps you on the shoulder, you might just jump. You have difficulty retaining your own well-being. You will overly respond to a stimulus. So say, for example, you want to paint a picture with every one of those things you write in to the right, next to those symptoms. You want to paint a picture for the evaluator that they can understand. And here's an exact sample of a great picture. I was speaking with a Vietnam veteran who said, I asked him about startle response. He's like, I don't know. His wife said, you want to know about startle response? Ever since he's come back from Vietnam, I wake him up with a broomstick. Now, does that paint a picture?
That paints a picture.
That paints a picture. The evaluator gets it. That's the important thing.
And I want everybody out there to know Dr. Fairchild is talking about this DBQ, Disability Benefits Questionnaire. It's the same thing that the examiner is going to use to report back his or her findings to the VA. Well, guess what? You have access to it. AVET-project.org. AVET-project.org. Go to the DIY. You're going to find all, thanks to our wonderful executive director and my wife, Kim, all of the DBQs regarding any condition. You look up for the PTSD one, print it out, and as Doc said, do it beforehand, right?
Oh, yeah. Review it. If you haven't,
make your notes.
Make your notes. Be ready. Now, when you get in there, as Garren said, you don't want to tell the story of, when I met my wife in San Francisco. You want to go ahead and hit the points. And you should have your own top 10 list, too, of the points I want to make before I leave. You can have it in front of you, not a problem at all. But I do advise you to keep the answer short. Answer the question. Don't go on and on and on about it. So I've got an example for you to think about. Some people call it sexist. I don't, because you can have a good man's swimming suit or a good women's swimming suit. So here's the way you need to think about your questions. You need to keep it long enough to cover the topic, your answers, long enough to cover the topic, but short enough to keep it interesting.
That's the truth right there. Okay, so they go through the C&P exam. They leave that office. Now it's up to the VA. I know we've just touched on this, but what the man has just told you is gold. Okay, be at your worst. Less is more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Once this is complete, that examiner is going to send the report to the VA, and a rating Veterans Service representative is going to take it and apply it to the schedule and hopefully award you every bit of entitlement that you have coming.
Exactly. And in fact, the best days in our office is when we hear from a veteran that, hey, I just got word from the VA and I got 50%, or I got 70%, or I got 100%. It's also important to remember that that is not a final number. If your condition worsens in the future, you can go back and hit them again.
So want you to share this episode. That's what's most important about American Warrior Radio. We're all volunteers. Nobody's getting a paycheck. This is about the brother and sisterhood of everybody that's served, or those that love people that have served, to share this information. And with that, I want to let you know, Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country is a regular segment with Dr. Scott Fairchild, and we'll be back again. Until then, don't forget, thank AVET.
Thank AVET.
Hi everyone, it's garrencone with American Warrior Radio. I'm here with my good friend Christian. We're here to deliver a very important message about a crisis in our land.
Suicide prevention, more specifically, veteran suicide prevention.
22 a day are taking their own lives. This must stop. This can't continue. If you or someone you know is contemplating suicide, please know that God has tomorrow planned for you. Don't take your own life, and just remember, suicide is a permanent solution
to a temporary problem.